Hey guys, it's John Stuart. Welcome back to another episode of Bitcoin and the Arts. It's been 10 months that I've been doing this. It's kind of hard to believe. It's been going pretty fast. Episode 10 here of Bitcoin and the Arts. So Daniel sent me this article from Forbes to check out because he thought it might be something I could talk about on the show. And I was reading it, and it was interesting. It was this article by a guy named George Howard. He's just talking about how he's kind of gotten sick about the same topics that people are talking about in the music industry constantly, like whether streaming's good or bad, whether Spotify's good or bad, all these issues that just keep coming up. And he said he's gotten sick of it. And so when he gets asked to speak on panels now, he kind of tries to take a different approach, and he's been actually focusing a lot on blockchain technology and how it can change the music industry, or how he says that it can change the music industry. And there's a section in this article where he says he's talked with a bunch of creative people about this, and he's tried to figure out how to explain it better and see how it could actually help them. One of the people he mentioned was Imogen Heap, who is a pretty well-known musician who I've listened to a little bit. I don't know a whole lot of her music, but I think I've actually watched some kind of panel with her on it before, and she seems like an interesting and smart person. And he mentioned her talking about the blockchain, and I thought, she's pretty well known. Is she really talking about the blockchain? So I looked it up, and I found an interview with George Howard, the guy who wrote that article. He's interviewing Imogen Heap about this idea she has called Mycelia, which is blockchain-based. I guess blockchain-based. It's not really a reality yet. It's still kind of just this abstract idea. But it seems, as far as I can tell, this is pretty legit. Like, there's that article on Forbes with this guy interviewing her and talking about her, and I found another article on The Guardian that's talking about Mycelia, her idea, and even a link to her own website that mentions it. So it seems like it's an actual thing, and reading this interview, it looks like she's actually kind of repping the blockchain, which is kind of crazy because she's, like I said, a pretty well-known musician, and she's been on panels and stuff recently. She's kind of getting out there and talking a lot, so this could be a fairly big deal. Mycelia, I should say, is the plural of mycelium, and I'm guessing that she doesn't realize that Mycelium is a pretty well-known company in the Bitcoin space. They have a wallet, and the coolest thing, I guess, that they've done recently is the Entropy, which we've talked about before. We have one. I still haven't gotten to use it yet. I need to talk to Daniel about that. Anyways, she prefaces the whole Mycelia thing by just going through all the crap about the music industry. It's the same kind of crap that people talk about all the time, and I guess it's true for the most part. You know, I'll read some of it from this is the Forbes.com interview with George Howard. I'll just read some of it. In the past few years, auditing labels and publishers seem to have become the norm, and it's apparent how consistently the books don't match up. You can pretty much guarantee you'll find something, but it's not always intentional. It's just the deals, trigger points, and percentages are so complex, even more when mergers and acquisitions occur, that it's hard to get it right every time if you're human. But if you're a computer program, a piece of software, a database, these issues disappear, as it's just maths half the time. This bit goes to this person, etc., and it doesn't take a year to reach the artist/writer/performer. It's instant because it's automated. So yeah, this is the same kind of stuff that we talk about all the time, and it's like, I don't know, it's kind of cool to see a pretty well-known performer and musician talking about this. Instead of expecting people to change or something, she's realizing, and people are realizing, wait, why don't we just do this all with a computer? It's going to work so much better. So yeah, then there's another part later where she says, it dawned on me a few months ago that the mechanism to create and sustain a place like Mycelia exists now with the help of blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder, she says cryptocurrencies. Usually people are kind of just like, yeah, blockchain, and like, yeah, you guys I'm sure know how that is. Yeah, and later she actually mentions a Bitcoin Tumblr, which is not something that most people are aware of. So it seems like she's actually, it seems like she actually kind of knows her stuff a little bit and is seriously interested in this. It's not just a gimmick or something like that. I guess I should start talking about how it actually works, because in this interview she actually goes into a fairly good amount of detail about how the system would work, at least in concept. I'm going to try to cover as much as I can, but there's a lot to go over here. So the one thing that she talks about, I guess, as a catalyst to all of this is that she thinks the music industry needs to be turned on its feet, and she says that because she thinks it's now on its head. It's never even been upright. She makes the claim that there are more middlemen than there are actual artists in the music industry. I can't validate that, but I would not be surprised one bit if that were true. So I guess I can take her word for it, at least for the time being. So then the issue is the music, the actual content is what allows this whole industry to survive, to be a thing. So why is it that there are more middlemen than artists? It's almost as if the business exists and it just kind of, it's like a parasite, and the content, the music, is just like this host that exists solely to keep the parasite of the industry growing. And she's kind of saying, well, why is it that artists are pandering to keep this industry going? Shouldn't the ones creating the content be at the root of the whole market and industry for this sort of thing? Like, why do they get picked up by these other businesses who have nothing to do with creating the actual thing that's of value here? So I guess, so I should explain, so that you don't have to look it up, what mycelium is. According to Wikipedia, mycelium, a mycelium, that's the singular of Mycelia, is the vegetative part of a fungus consisting of a mass of branching thread-like hyphae. So that's relevant because the analogy of a fungus is she kind of runs with it throughout the whole mycelia idea. So like, going with this idea of the artists being at the root, the content that's created in mycelia is called a spore. That's what Imogen Heap calls it. And all the services and things like that built on top of it are the mushroom. And so what makes this all work is smart contracts. And yeah, I know, we like everyone talking about smart contracts. I guess I've probably been making fun of it a lot recently. It's just everyone's talking about smart contracts all the time, but we really haven't seen them happen yet. You just gotta be patient, I guess, and hope for the best. But anyways, so this thing is really dependent on smart contracts. And the way it would work is there are these spores, and then the mushrooms that grow out of the spores, everything is kind of controlled by these contracts that all go back to the spore. So you're a content creator and you create this spore, and somebody wants to advertise it. They become part of the mushroom. You make this contract with them. Or you have somebody play on your song. They're part of the mushroom. You have streaming services or whatever it is. She says that, like, the mushroom, that's where there's room in this for places like Spotify and YouTube and Pandora, whatever it is. And even like for curation, like if you're just really good at making playlists, you could become part of this mushroom and then get paid through contracts and everything else. And also like remixes or things like that, or if somebody takes a song and puts it in a film, all of this kind of stems off of that spore and always goes back to it, because it's all in this chain and everything's linked by a central record. I should say, as I mentioned films, that she says that hopefully in the future this isn't just a thing for music. It's possible that this will be able to encompass all different mediums of art. Along with that, in the discussion, the concept of like album art and liner notes and stuff is brought up, because that's something that's really been lost with all this digital music and with streaming, whether you think streaming is good or bad in general, and even iTunes and things like that. all that stuff has kind of got lost. All the names of people who played on records, produced them, engineered them, all the companies who sponsored artists, gave them guitar strings or drumsticks or whatever it is to make the thing, that all has kind of gotten lost. And it's hard enough now just to get like an album cover, much less all the other art that in the past has sometimes been included with albums. And if you have something like this whole Mycelia thing where everything's based on the spore and comes out of it, all that stuff is more easily linked to the actual content, and it becomes then easier to find for people who are consuming the content. It also helps people to be able to actually make money off of it and to have contracts that suit them, that they voluntarily have signed on to with other people, and it enforces those contracts better than any human could because it's a computer, it's a protocol. And I think I've talked in the past about the liner notes and stuff like that, and just how even getting credit for things is really messed up, and all these databases where music are kept are not standardized and they're spread out everywhere. The hope with Mycelia is that it will be a single place where records of virtually everything are kept in one place and it's all connected. That's quite a large feat to undertake. Again, I'm talking about all of this in a conceptual way. I don't know how feasible it is, how soon it could possibly happen if it is feasible, but I think a lot of this stuff is really interesting, and some of it is not things that I haven't heard about or things that I haven't even talked about on the show. Some of it is things that we've seen before, but Mycelia seems extremely comprehensive and all-encompassing, and I think that's the thing that makes it different than things that I've talked about already. Something like this also, she brings up how it could be used for crowdfunding, and it might be that an artist doesn't even actually need to start a campaign. Like, their fans could just start crowdfunding of their own accord and give all this money to the artist, and that'd be part of one of these mushrooms. And she also talks about mining a little bit, and says that she's been talking with people from Ethereum, another piece of evidence that she actually knows a little bit about what she's getting into and is seriously interested in blockchain technology and cryptocurrency, whatever. But yeah, so the miners would, I guess, enforce all these records. They would keep everything legit, and so they would get paid. There would be a transaction fee that's just standardized for moving data around in here. The miners are almost like librarians or something like that in this case, or I don't want to say, librarians, I guess. So I think the thing that gets me really excited about this is, well, it kind of annoys me when people just kind of complain. You hear musicians just complain about, oh, how bad the music industry is. Spotify is so terrible. If it was only back in the good old days, all that kind of stuff. It's like people are just begging someone to pamper them, and really, this doesn't seem like that. Like, if Mycelia were to become a reality, people are still super responsible for producing good content and finding good ways to market it and getting themselves out there and actually taking control of themselves. It's exactly how it works with Bitcoin. It puts people in control of their money, which is a great thing, and it allows people to make better decisions with their money. But if you don't know what you're doing with your money, you can still get screwed. And I think that's true of Mycelia. The thing that's cool about it is that it seems like it'd be really flexible and, like I've said earlier, all-encompassing. If people still want to join with these big record companies that will promote them and help pay for stuff for them in return for all this money back, I don't see why that wouldn't be possible with this. It still allows that, but it gives you another option. It gives you a way to hang on to your little spore, and you control what kind of mushrooms get built off of it. This is kind of an absurd analogy, but I mean, it makes sense. It's funny. It's just kind of weird to talk about. But yeah, it allows people who want to and who are able to control their stuff and make money off the content, which, like we've said, is why the industry exists in the first place. So I really hope that this gets somewhere. It seems like a really cool idea to me. I did not get to cover everything. There's tons of stuff. It's a really long interview. Please, if you're interested, check it out. George Howard interviews Imogen Heap on Mycelia for Forbes Media and Entertainment. Look it up. It's a good interview. Tons and tons of information. It's just like solid paragraphs of text, like for days, not days, but yeah. There's a lot of good stuff in there, so look it up. Once again, I've been John Stuart. This has been Bitcoin in the Arts. Thanks for coming. I hope to see you next month. Later.